Oh my god, it's happening! Long days and pleasant nights, bookworms. Mike back with another weekly update. Lots of fun things to talk about this week. And there are some things besides the Dark Tower news to talk about. But we're going to begin like usual, guys. Let's dip into what am I reading. I did finish Abaddon's Gate by Daniel Abraham, Ty Frank, a.k.a. James S.A. Corey. I kind of talked about my criticisms last week. Those did kind of hold up. I did really like the story. It does. I mean, I got to say, guys, the show is a very faithful adaptation. They do change some things to some characters, combine some characters, move some characters around, and have maybe some characters do some things that other characters do. But as far as like the storyline with the ring and all that, it's pretty spot on. And it had kind of the same resolution. I will say, I like the crew of the Behemoth on the TV show. And I'm going to make the comparisons, guys, because I've watched the TV show, so I'm going to make the comparisons to these things. I like the crew of the Behemoth on the TV show better because I don't know, I felt like they were much more honorable. This way, they were just kind of like mustache twirling bad guys. I didn't really like some of the things that were represented. Look, Ashford is one of my favorite characters on the show, and in this, he's a complete idiot. So, I mean, I can see why there's some things that there's going to be much different because they're combining characters and they're giving characters new roles and things like that. And the fact that it was the authors that wrote that different version of those characters, you know, including Drummer, who isn't in this book and is in the show. It's kind of a hard comparison to make, but that's what kept coming to mind was like, I think I like the parts on the Behemoth on the show better because I like that version of the crew better than what's represented in this book. But Melba had a really good story in this one. You'll find out who that is if you don't know. The Rocinante crew is always a ton of fun. Still want to see some of those characters besides just Holden get the spotlight a little bit, but I do know that those things are coming up. But yeah, highly recommend, and I'm looking forward to continuing. And about that, guys, we'll talk about that here in a minute in what I am going to read. But I did go ahead and start a new book, which is Kings of Ash by Mr. Richard Nell. Now, I am going to say up front, I want you to listen to what I'm saying. I don't want people like, oh my God, he isn't liking the book. No. I have mixed reception for this, and it's not Richard's fault. It is my fault, guys, because I took 2 years between these books. So I'm coming up on the halfway point here. There are times where I'm like, I don't know if this is important because I don't remember if that's something tying back to the last book. This book does some fun things with timelines, with some flashbacks and stuff. And I feel like there's some big revelations that are happening, and they're kind of flying over my head because I don't remember who some of these characters are. So that's my fault. Richard actually has reached out and tried to help me with a couple of things, and I appreciate that because he's awesome. He's an awesome guy, and that's why I've talked to him on the channel, guys. I hope you know that Richard is an amazing guy, and you should definitely pick this up. Now, I will say the really great is I love that we're getting so much Ruka in this book because Ruka was the standout in the first book, but he split time evenly with KO, I think. But and there's just like no Dala in this one, which I'm all for because Dala was the one character that didn't really work for me with that first book. But this one, if you really want the full-on like Ruka to be the focus, this is it. And he's getting into some stuff with some magic system stuff that I can't recall anything else using anything like this. So it's quite interesting. But I'm continuing to be open-minded about where this is headed because right now I'm kind of like, I don't know what he's doing with this. But I'm excited to find out. So I will say I'm mixed only because I'm confused on things. Again, it's my fault. That's not Richard's fault. So don't take that as a should I read it or not. Yeah, I think if you read this series back to back, like the people I'm reading with on my Discord, I'm reading with Madison, Ashley, Brent, and Medic, and they're all reading it back to back. And I think a lot more of these things are hitting for them than are hitting for me. But they're all saying, yeah, I can't imagine taking a 2-year break between this because a lot of these things would be a little shady. So we will see how things continue with that. But again, I think Richard's a fantastic writer, and I love this world that he's created. And I'm looking forward to continuing as we go along. But that's all I got for that. How about what am I going to read? Obviously, guys, I want to finish Kings of Ash. I'm still working on Lonesome Crown by Brian Lee Durfee. I'm about a quarter into that one. It's a beast of a book, so that's like 300 pages, you know. But I know that I did kind of put that one to the side when I started reading Expanse, and then I picked up this one because I was just excited to get back to it, and I'm part of that group that's reading along with it. But I think that Lonesome Crown is going to be one of those that's kind of like do slowly over the course of the whole month. But it's great, guys. I think all the issues I had with Blackest Heart out the window with this one. It's very fast paced. It's focusing on the characters I want to focus on. It's already given some answers and stuff, so I'm excited to see where Brian takes it, and I'm enjoying taking my time with it because I love that world, I love those characters, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not really ready to say goodbye to him yet, because I just kind of feel like I just got him in my life a couple months ago, and that's the downside of waiting till a series is complete to read it, is if you really click with it, you're like, oh man, I don't get to stay in this world very long, so that is playing into it a little bit. But about The Expanse, guys, I know I said I was going to do Cibola Burn this month as well. I've kind of made a change on that. Now, they are doing a read-along on my Discord. Now, I'm not a part of it. I've told you guys there's lots of people who will coordinate read-alongs on my Discord. We got tons of them going on right now, and tons of them heading into 2023. And there is a group that is starting The Expanse in 2023. And I was like, you know what? I had like no one to talk to about when I was doing Abaddon's Gate. I had like no one to talk to about it. So I figure what I'll do is I'll wait for that read-along. They're doing March to December. They're going to do the whole series next year. So I think it's going to be June, I think, is when they're going to be catching up with where I am. And I'm just going to pick up then with Cibola Burn and then do the one a month with them the rest of the way. So I have, someone to talk to. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But I'm loving that world. I am going to continue to read the novellas between each book because I think that really does help flesh out that universe. But just if people were waiting for me to talk about Cibola Burn or something, that's why. So there's going to be a little bit more weight on it, but it is a series I am going to complete in 2023, and I'm very, very excited about that. After that, guys, the only other plans I got for the month is to finish up with book number 3 of Ash and Sand by Mr. Richard Nell. And this one's much shorter. I mean, look at this comparison. It's much, much shorter. So, the thing is, it's like this book looks shorter than book 1, but it's actually longer because it has smaller fonts. So maybe this one's got smaller font too. Richard's tricksy like that. Tricksy little hobbit. But yeah, that's really all I got. And then, of course, Ash is a Man, the next Sun Eater book. The penultimate Sun Eater book does come out here on Tuesday, I believe. Now, this one's a maybe. I kind of just mentioned on the Discord that I did finish watching Vinland Saga Season 1 with my kid, and he was devastated by how it ended. If you know how the prologue arc ends, it's devastating. It really is. And he was not okay with it. He was very, very upset because one of his favorite characters died. So he was like, that's the whole reason I was watching the show. And I kind of made that joke on the Discord. It's like, ironically, that's kind of where I stopped reading because I was still processing that. And people jumped all over me thinking I said that I had quit the series because that happened. I was like, no, I took a break. I didn't want to quit. So I do plan on continuing with it. I do need to get back into this. I have volume 5 and 6. I was waiting until I got 7 and 8 so I didn't have to stop. But I'll probably either just wait or I'll get them on digital maybe. I don't know because these arcs read really quick, and I think that they do. I think it's 4 books. I'm not sure that do this next arc. Not really sure on that, but this is what's known as the Farmland arc, I believe. But yeah, I'd like to get back into that because I think that is without a doubt that those first 4 volumes is the best manga I've ever read. It is amazing, even above Berserk, how Berserk started. So I'd be excited to continue with that world and see what Thorfinn is up to in that next stage of life. But how about a little bit this week on the channel, guys? I did go ahead and wrap up the month of November. Always fun for me to do a wrap up because there's always lots of fun things to talk about. Pick my book of the month, talk about the most popular things and how the channel's doing. All that fun stuff that goes into a wrap up. My book of the month was actually quite easy because I only read like 4 of them in November. So it was quite easy for me to pick the winner there. And I think most people seem to be, if not happy with it, they seem to be interested in the series. I'm talking about that one book of the month for November. Did our panel of the Elderlings, which is going to be our Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings discussion series. That's with Jake, with Madison, with Scott, and with Philip. And these are going to be so much fun based off of just this introduction episode. We wanted to kind of do an introduction episode because we didn't want to do one for the Farseer trilogy and then we talk about ourselves for 30 minutes because then people just get mad and they're like, when does the review start, So we didn't want to kind of cram it in there. So I said, let's just do an introduction episode, talk about how we were introduced to the series, what we love about it, maybe your favorite character, things like that. It's spoiler-free outside of telling you stuff like our favorite character. I don't think that out of context that's going to bother you very much. But if you're interested in the series, I think it's a good discussion to watch because it'll tell you everything you need to know about why this series resonates with people so much. And I'm excited to do it. And honestly, having Philip reading along with me, starting with Tawny Man in January, that's the best reading buddy I could possibly have. Us reading Beowulf together had some very interesting text exchanges. So I can't wait to do that and talk with those fine folks, because it's a great time. I can't wait to do it. And we should be doing Farseer sometime in January. Then I did my book haul for November. Again, nothing new to add there. You guys know book hauls, because that seems to be some of the most popular videos that I make is some book hauls. People love to see new books. I love to say thank you for things that were sent to me, and just kind of talk about, it's an opportunity to talk about some series that maybe I'm not going to, talk about on the channel. So it gives me that opportunity to kind of, get it out there and talk about them briefly in a book haul, or, engage in conversation with you about, hey, I don't know anything about this series. Someone sent it to me. What do you guys think about it? And I get lots of recommendations in book hauls. It's a lot of fun. And outside of that, I didn't do anything else. I did cross 10 million subscribers on the, or not, sorry, 10 million subscribers. I wish. That would be quit your job money, guys. 10 million lifetime views on the channel, which was a year-end goal for me. 10 million views, 85,000 subscribers was my internal personal goals for the year. Doesn't change anything. I'm just very goal oriented. I like to set goals. As of recording this, I'm still about 800-ish plus away from getting that before the end of the year with the subscribers. But, hey, fingers crossed, hopefully we can get there. But again, like I said, changes nothing. It's just fun for me personally to have those goals. Let's talk about a little bit of next week plans, guys. I'm going to begin some more of my end of the year kind of rollout, and that's going to be with my most anticipated books of 2023. And I know it's going to be like every year where I'll make it and then I'll think, I forgot that because I didn't remember that it's coming out next year. I actually have to do some research on this because I don't know off the top of my head. I can't think of any books outside of like Red Rising that I'm just stoked to read next year. But I'm sure once I start actually like reading about it or researching it, I'll feel like, of course that one comes out next year. There's some I'm not sure if they're coming out next year. So I need to kind of actually do a little homework on that before I make that video. The last one didn't do that great, but I am going to continue because I said I would. I'm going to do a review for Ship of Destiny. That is the last book in Robin Hobb's Live Ship Traders trilogy, talking about the conclusion there. Those are spoilers light, so if you haven't read it, obviously, I know that that's not going to be anything that you're really interested in. Again, I just kind of, the only, by me, spoilers light is I just talk about the characters and like some of the arcs that they have in that book. I don't give away the overall plot. I'm going to save that for our spoiler discussion panel. But great book. And I look forward to talking about it. Probably one of the most requested videos on the channel is finally going to be happening, guys. Now, when I started my ranking Stephen King series, I said it was going to take a while because it's going to be like 5, 6, maybe 7 parts because I'm just doing it by certain... The guy's wrote a lot. He's wrote a lot, and he's wrote for a long time. So I was doing my Into the Multiverse where I'm rereading a lot of these. Because a lot of these I wouldn't feel safe ranking them, without having read them since I was like 15, 16 years old. I'd like to revisit a lot of them. So I had to read some things. However, it's been like a 7-month break between part 2 and the upcoming part 3. Well, I'm finally there. Part 3, I'll be doing that this week. That is from 1990 to 1997. I think it's like 10 or 11 books. So again, the guy was very prolific. He's always been. So I'll be ranking those and adding them to the current tier list. And then it's going to be a long wait for 4, guys, because I got a lot of stuff to reread. So I wanted to make sure I got through Dark Tower 4 before I made that list. That way I don't just cram 4 Dark Tower books on the next list. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Anytime I can talk about King, it's a lot of fun for me as far as ranking them. I don't know. That's something I like to do live. Because I feel like your first instinct is usually the correct one. And it also can change between, if I pre-plan it and then I start recording it, it could change between that time. So I like to do those live, so I don't know what's going to happen with it. But that's half the fun, right? So thank you for waiting patiently, if you have been waiting patiently, for me to do a part 3 of the Stephen King ranking series. That'll finally be happening sometime this week. On another channel, I'll be a guest on Philip's channel on Sunday afternoon as we're going to be talking about the Dark Tower. Very excited, obviously, about all the kinds of Dark Tower things going on this week. But obviously, anytime I get an invite onto Philip's channel is an honor and a pleasure because Philip is just one of the best human beings I've ever met. And we've got some disagreements on the Dark Tower, and we're going to talk about those on a panel. I think with Sarah, Bookish Chaz, and one other person I haven't actually met, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting their name at the moment, but I'll still link their channel down below just because I can't recall. So look for it there. But that'll be live on his channel on Sunday afternoon, I think 1 p.m. Texas time, 2 p.m. Eastern. So look that up if you guys want to join us and join the discussion, because he will be taking questions and comments for that. It will be a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it. Talk about his path to the beam and how it went for him, his trip to the tower. And yeah, lots of fun stuff ahead. Now, guys, I did put a poll on the channel like right before I record this today, and it's about Percy Jackson. Now, look, guys, I tried to read this series, gosh, I mean, right before I think about like 2010 or so, because I missed Harry Potter. I wanted something that made me think of Harry Potter, and this was the series everybody recommended after Harry Potter. I read the first book. I was like, that's fun. You know, nobody, don't take it too seriously. It's a lot of fun. You understand going in something like this. Yeah, this is for like, you know, middle-aged kid or middle school age kids, like 9 to 13 or so. That's what the series is for. And I think if you go into it with that mindset, you know, that's like when I read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I know it wasn't written for me, so I'm not going to just sit here and rip it apart knowing it wasn't written for me. But I read the first book. I liked it enough. I thought, hey, this is a series that's getting kids interested in Greek mythology. That's great. That's a great idea. I remember exactly where I stopped in book number 2. There's a part where they're on a boat and it gets attacked, and there's people shooting bows and arrows with boxing gloves on the end of it. And I was like, this is just way too kiddie for me. And I decided, hey, you know, it's just not for me. But I did put a poll up on this because they're doing a read-along on my server, and I was tempted. But I said, what I want to try to do is rope my kid into it, because I'm dying trying to get my oldest kid to start putting down the iPad and picking up a book once in a while. So if I can rope him into this read-along, I said I'd like to try to do this. If I can't, the poll is, you know, should I go ahead and do it anyway? You know, if I just go into it with that mindset, if it's not written for you, but you know what? It can be fun little palate cleansers, right? But if people think, hey, no, it's just way too young for you, old man, hey, be honest. That's fine. I have no problems with that. But I do have the set that I bought for him. I was hoping that the Disney Plus series came out before this happened, because I think that'll get him a little more interested. If he sees the TV show, he might get a little more interested. He's seen me play God of War, so he knows a lot of things. He played a Phoenix Rising video game, so he's interested in Greek mythology, I think. So I think it would be just a home run if I could get him interested in it. But you know, at that age, man, in today's generation, all they want to do is play video games. And I got to think back when I was younger, I'd have played a lot more video games than reading if I'd have had those options too. So we'll see. We'll see. But I would be interested in seeing, you know, just for fun, if that worked for me. But again, if you guys think, no way, even if you love Harry Potter, and I do still love Harry Potter, even at this age, if that would be something I'd be into, I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about it. But yeah, that's all that's going on the channel. There is some big TV and movie news. Obviously, guys, the Dark Tower news that came out. Now, my Dark Tower wet dream on this channel has been for years now. Ever since I started this channel, I've been talking about Mike Flanagan. When he made Gerald's Game, I said, Mike Flanagan, get Stephen King. And then when I saw Dr. Sleep, I was like, holy hell, he did the impossible. He made a Stephen King adaptation that was better than the book. And I stick by that, still to this day. So I kept saying, if anyone makes Dark Tower, I want it to be Mike Flanagan. He would talk to anybody who would listen about how that was his holy grail. That was his dream project. And I said recently, he's been talking about it a lot lately. That makes me think maybe something is up. Then the news that he was switching from Netflix to Amazon. I was like, well, last I checked, Amazon has those Dark Tower rights. So I wanted to be optimistic about it, but I know that these things don't ever go as planned. However, news did break yesterday, and I gotta say, guys, irresponsible journalism, Bloody Disgusting. Very irresponsible. Bloody Disgusting makes a tweet that says, Mike Flanagan announces that he is adapting The Dark Tower for television on Amazon's Prime Video. Not true, guys. You have to read the article in Deadline. That is very much a clickbait headline. And you know what? You got me to click, so I guess you did your part. What it says is that he does have the rights to The Dark Tower, which is news to me. Because like I said, I know when Amazon canceled the pilot that they filmed for it, I was like, I don't know what's going on with the rights. I'm pretty sure Mike Flanagan is Netflix's ear about, hey, you got to acquire these rights. Well, it turns out Mike Flanagan and Intrepid Studios did get the rights. Apparently, I'm guessing that they reverted back to Stephen King. And he's built that relationship with Stephen King. Obviously, a couple good adaptations now. And he's obviously a huge, huge fan of Stephen King's works. And he presented his idea and his outline for what he wants to do with a Dark Tower television series, 5 seasons and 2 feature films on streaming service, probably. Not like theatrical, at least I don't think. Depends on how big it is, I guess. And Stephen King gave him his blessing and sold him the rights. Now, the big news in that article is that those rights are carved out of his Amazon deal. What that means is Intrepid owns the rights. That's his production company. Means he can get any financier he wants. It doesn't have to be just Amazon. Now, I'm sure he's going to be like, yeah, I'd like a little bit of that Amazon money you guys are spending on like Rings of Power. You know, I'm sure that he's going to have Amazon interested. The fact that Amazon got that close to making an adaptation before and they canceled it, and that was only like a year and a half, 2 years ago, makes me think, I don't know if they think that that's something that's going to work for them. I don't know, but I got to think they really wanted Mike Flanagan over there. They're going to listen. So I think a lot of people are assuming Amazon's going to want to make it. But if you read this article, guys, and if you've heard Mike Flanagan talk about Dark Tower, this isn't anything he's going to make just to make it. He wants to make it extremely faithful. He even says in that article, I'm not going to bastardize Stephen King's source material. So I have zero doubts that he's going to make it without being in full control. I'm pretty sure his number one stipulation is, I get creative control, I get final cut. He's not going to let any studio heads put their fingers in that pie. He's going to make this and bake this all on his own with his team. He says he wants to have a very small, intimate writer's room, like 3 or 4 people for the entire run. So, guys, I'm not getting overly excited yet. Now, look, inside, I'm, bang, 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 bang. I'm having a great time. I'm like, this is my Dark Tower wet dream. This is on the same level for me, guys, as when Denny V was announced that he was making Dune. This is on that same level. This is a dream pick for me. You give me an infinite budget and say I can pick anyone I want, Mike Flanagan, Dark Tower. That was my answer. So the fact that we're this close to it happening. But you always hope for the best, expect the worst. So I've seen so many times over the years, Dark Tower this close to being adapted. And then the one adaptation we got was like, oh man, why did they do that? So I don't want to put the cart before the horse here. Be like, yeah, they're making Dark Tower. I do think it's going to happen. I feel like Flanagan's got enough street cred now. People know what he can do with characters and what he can do with long-form television. They know that he's going to be good in this. But it's going to be a very expensive show. So it's going to be a lot of negotiating to how much budget they're going to have. Because I don't think he's going to do this, like I said, if he doesn't have creative control and if it looks cheap. He's not going to do it if it just looks cheap. He's not going to do it just to do it. He's been talking about saying he's wanted to do this since he was in film school, you guys. So he wants to do this and he wants to do it right. So I want to believe he's going to find someone to give him the funding. I don't know if they're going to say, yeah, you can do your whole plan. It's going to be but we're going to need to see some success kind of thing. But I can see him at least getting someone like an Amazon to say, look, we'll give you 3 seasons. Go out and prove it. So hopefully, guys, fingers are crossed, because there's nothing more than I'd like to see is that content done faithfully on my television screen. And of course, to get more of you to pick up the books and fun little things like I get. So yeah, amazing news. I hope it turns out great. Like I watched my guy Jaime Fuego's video this morning talking about it, and like his enthusiasm, same. Me and him have been dreaming about this for years now, since him and I first started communicating, that we both talked about this is our pie in the sky best case scenario. And the fact that we're this close to it is just amazing. It really, really is. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you guys. Before I go, I do want to talk about this, all these happenings at DC Studios. Now, you guys know that James Gunn did take over. It sounds like he's really taking over. And a lot of people are looking at this as bad news. I'm looking at this as great news. It's great news, guys. I think he's scrapping everything. Now, I know we got the news recently. Even Henry Cavill even put out an Instagram video saying he was back as Superman. I think James Gunn's kind of like, not so fast, my friend. He wasn't actually in charge yet, so he couldn't actually stop anything. He couldn't stop what happened with Black Adam with that post-credit scene and stuff. He's canceled Wonder Woman 3. That's over. The rumor is they're taking Henry Cavill's cameo out of the Flash movie, and Black Adam 2 looks like it's probably not going to happen, because that movie's basically breaking even. It's going to make money, but it didn't do as successful as they were hoping, because honestly, in my opinion, guys, That movie didn't need to be $200 million. It wasn't a $200 million movie, in my opinion. However, I'm just a guy with Wi-Fi. They're, the money men in Hollywood. But it looks like he's scrapping everything. I think this is a great idea. It needs to start fresh. It really, really does. Because if they don't, every single movie that they put out is going to be like Shazam or like Black Adam, where it's a good movie, but no one trusts them. They've ruined that trust. So I think anytime they make a new movie in the Snyderverse, as it were, people are always just going to think about those movies that let them down. They're going to think about that first Justice League movie or something. I think starting fresh, giving James Gunn a clean slate. Apparently he has like a 10-year plan, and I am anxious to see what it is. So I think they need to just start it over, recast everything, start fresh with a beginning, middle, and end planned out. Because the thing with the DCU, they had no plan. They have admitted they had no plan. And look what happened. It just kind of just ran off of the rails. So I think this is a great idea. I trust James Gunn to do things that the Snyderverse never would, like a Green Lantern movie. I trust that James Gunn will make if the guy that made Guardians of the Galaxy and made it believable can't do a Green Lantern movie, no one can do a Green Lantern movie. So that's my pie in the sky, is that they start this at a ground level, and by the end, we're doing Blackest Night up in space and Green Lantern. That's my pie in the sky for the DC universe. I would like to see them do that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to do like 5 kind of standalone-ish films that can stand on their own, and if they're successful and they built a foundation, then you'll start to see the convergence and the crossover and the team-ups and all that stuff. Not going to rush it. They're not going to do like they did with Justice League, where they're like, we got to get this together as soon as possible. So I think this is great news. Great news. Another rumor is that this is going to be the last Aquaman movie with Jason Momoa, and then apparently they want him to play Lobo in this new version, which actually is perfect. He looks like Lobo. I think that would actually be a much better casting. So, I mean, look, guys, I am the most optimistic as I've been for DC on film in a long time because of James Gunn. He's a fan. He's a nerd like us. He wants to see this stuff done right. He knows that people love these characters. And I think erasing everything that we've had over the last decade is the best move. And just starting fresh, because no one's ever going to see a new movie in that universe and trust them wholeheartedly. That's why those movies get just blasted before they even come out, because no one trusts that universe anymore. So I love these characters, and I want to see them done well. And I think that that's the only way you're going to repair the brand, because I think the damage... Here's the thing about stuff like this, guys. It's like you can build a lot of goodwill, but if you get negative reception, well, it's a long time before you're able to build that back up. So I think if there is a cheat code for that, it is just scrapping it and starting over. I think they'll start over with a Superman or a Batman movie. Obviously, that's your flagship. They're going to start there. I think they'll do the Trinity. They'll do Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and then they'll kind of go from there. And I think that's the best way to do it. So I trust James Gunn. I think he's a great filmmaker. I think he's going to be a great architect if Warner Brothers really does this time take a hands-off approach and let him do what he does best. So fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed. So very optimistic news on TV and Movie Talk today. I was just very blown away by both of these stories, and I'm just overly happy about it. And yeah, it's just a great time, hopefully, to be a nerd of these two series. So guys, that was my week. What did your week look like? Why don't you drop in the comments, let me know what you're reading, what you're playing, what you're listening to, all of those fun things. Tell me what you're watching. I always love that one. And have yourselves an awesome weekend.